Hi everybody, welcome back to In the Kitchen with Paul and Judy. We're going to do a really fun recipe today, and it's a really quick and easy recipe.
You know what my favorite part about it is?
It's easy.
I have virtually nothing to do.
What else is new?
No, hey, listen, when I did the
That's
risotto,
true, the risotto.
I did the steak.
Yeah, you made up for it.
I need like 2 months off after each one that I do.
Well, this will be fun. It's called Swiss cheese chicken, and part of the reason that it really is fun is because I feel like I've been making this forever. I have to tell you the source of this recipe. It's from the Easy Does It cookbook. Hysterical. Well, I think that when I was first on my own, got my first job, I mean, it practically opens to the page automatically. I've made this recipe so many times. But my mom gave me this, and it was when I was living in Grand Rapids, Michigan. And I was looking for, easy recipes to do because I was really not a cook. See how it just kind of opens to the Swiss cheese chicken? Yep. Oh, but you have to see, it's so funny. Because look, even the copyright, now this isn't when I lived there, but it goes all the way back to 1982. Isn't that something?
38 years.
Yeah, I know. I just think it's fun.
How's that possible? You don't even look 38.
That's because I'm not. But the cool thing about this is it really is quick and easy, and after you do it once, you'll have it memorized. Okay. So I'm going to close the book and show you.
I have a question.
Okay, what's the question?
Before you do all that.
Okay.
Do I need to do something?
Yes, it would be a very good idea if you set the oven to 350.
I will do that.
So preheat the oven to 350. Oh, we got to do our toast.
And to all of you at home.
Yes, cheers. And subscribe. And you know what? It even makes a difference for us when you hit the thumbs up button below.
Oh, does it?
You know what? Even if they hit the thumbs down button, it helps.
Really?
Not that anyone would ever do that.
Well, listen, if you like it, definitely subscribe. If you, and you want to share it with your friends. And if you don't like it, share it with your enemies.
Well, speaking of the thumbs down, but it's even nice to be able to read the comments. And I have fun when people will write in about a recipe that we've done and then say what they've done similarly, but the changes that they've made.
And
so
they send pictures sometimes.
Yeah, sometimes. Yes. Yep.
All right, I'm going to go do my job.
Okay, and I'll show you what you're going to need for this recipe. So this is called Swiss cheese chicken. You're going to need, depending on how much you make, it calls for 6 to 8 chicken breasts. I usually, because these are so thick, I usually cut mine in 2. So I'm cutting the whole recipe in half. I'm going to consider this as 2 chicken breasts, skinned chicken breasts. You'll need 2 cans if you're doing the regular recipe, but since we're cutting it in half, I'm doing 1 can of cream of mushroom soup. I'm going to use 1/4 of a cup of milk. Again, your choice between the low fat, the skim, the whole milk, fat-free, completely up to you. You're obviously going to need Swiss cheese, and we like to get the Boar's Head Switzerland.
Swiss.
Yeah,
they call that.
It's just really good. Whatever your Swiss cheese of choice, just make sure it's not too mild. You want to be able to have a nice,
flavor.
Pungent Swiss cheese flavor. You know that I typically eat gluten-free, so I would recommend the panko. But I'm actually going to do it by the book today, by the Easy Does It cookbook, and we're going to treat ourselves to the Pepperidge Farm herb seasoned classic stuffing. And I'm only going to use, I'm going to eyeball it. As you say, we always sort of adjust our recipes, but it calls for a full bag if you're doing 6 to 8 chicken breasts. Since we're only doing 4, we'll just use half. The milk, again, would call for a 1/2 cup. We're using a 1/4 cup, and you'd usually use 2 of these, but we're just going to use 1. You'll use
we only have 1.
You'll use your Swiss cheese just to lay over the top of the chicken, and you'll need your baking pan spray to get the pan ready. And then the only other thing is butter. So you'll need, except in our case, we're only going to use a 1/2 stick of butter. You'll melt it. It makes it much easier to drizzle over the top of the whole thing.
Okay.
So if you're ready to go,
I'm ready.
We'll open everything up. And then as far as all of your utensils, I'm going to be doing it in a 9x9 baking dish. The full recipe, if you have the 6 to 8 chicken breast, calls for the 9x13. Your mixing bowl, and then all of your utensils as far as mixing and cutting. Yeah. So pretty easy does it.
Little saucepan for your butter.
For your butter. All right, so let's begin.
Okay.
Shall we? And I want to get some of this stuff out of the way so that you're able to see what we're doing.
Since I have but 1 job to do.
Yes.
No, 2. Because it was turn on the oven.
It was turn on the oven. Check.
It was the 350.
350.
Okay, yeah, I did that. And then I have to melt the butter, but I have to know about when, so it comes in later on. 'Cause
Yeah.
I don't like to burn the butter.
Okay. Oh, I agree. That's a good point. So, as I said, because these are such large pieces of chicken, or I should say thick pieces. Oh, you get to be the garbage disposal
Thank you.
too.
Oh, this is awesome.
And the hits just keep on coming. Anyway, I've gotten accustomed to cutting them in half, so it makes it go a long way. But it's also easy to keep the portions down when you're maximizing the meat.
Now you think
Here we go.
being the trash guy is easy,
I
right?
put this away too soon. What's that?
This is plastic. Tomorrow's our recycle day.
Oh, that's
I'm
true.
gonna put it in my little recycle place.
Okay, so definitely spray your baking pan so you don't have a sticking issue. After that, and you can go ahead and start melting the butter.
okay.
Yep, we're going to need that.
I'm gonna do it very on low heat because.
Okay, just because you don't want to burn it.
Yeah, anytime I'm cooking, even with the steaks, and I put butter. If you watch our perfect medium rare filet mignon,
And I can put that link in the upper right-hand corner.
and I did that with both olive oil and butter, but I put the butter in later when the pan's really hot and just before I want it to come in contact with the steaks because you don't want it to burn.
Right. At this point, just lay the chicken in the pan. Easy enough after you've sprayed it. After that, in the mixing bowl, you have measured your 1/4 cup of milk, or 1/2 cup, as I say, if you're doubling the recipe or doing it the normal way, which is the 6 to 8 chicken breasts.
Really not normal here.
Oh, thank you. Yes, back in the fridge. Good point. So that'll go in along with a can of the cream of mushroom soup. Oh, and in the original recipe, this is kind of an interesting side. Oh, thanks. I didn't want to hand it to you to cut you. That, I guess, in 1982, now maybe people still do this, but a lot of people cook with sherry. So the other way to do this, and I've never tried it this way, so it might be kind of fun to see how it would taste different than milk, but you use sherry instead of milk. So it would be the cream of mushroom soup and then the equivalent of 1/4 cup of milk in our half version. So I think that might be kind of interesting to see how that would turn out.
And I have to say, honestly, and Judy does a great job at this. This is one of our go-to meals. We have some that we constantly are revolving. Are we good?
We're good.
We're good.
Good to go. So you'll just mix this together. How's your butter coming
Doing
along?
great.
All right.
Our oven is ovening.
Yeah, this is so fast that
Oh, and that's another great
it's
point.
done in basically 20 minutes.
I don't know if we belabored that point, but sometimes when you're not sure, you don't have a lot of time. Some of our preparations of other meals take a little bit longer, like if I'm really doing the medium rare the exact way that I want to do it and timing it with the 30 minutes before for the meat to come to temperature, all that takes a lot of time. This one doesn't take a lot of time.
Doesn't take a lot of time. That's what I love about it. And as I say, it's easy to memorize. So once you've put the chicken in the pan, you've got your milk and your cream of mushroom soup mixed together. You've got your butter melting.
Melting butter.
Then make sure that, and the way that I do this, sometimes people will buy prepackaged Swiss cheese, and I do that sometimes too, but if you're going to the deli, just ask them to make it in the sandwich cut. That's all you really need. Now, at this point, just lay the Swiss cheese right over the top of the chicken, just straight on. And that's why I say you'll do this gauging it, just eyeballing it. It calls for, I think it was 3 to 6 pieces of Swiss cheese, but as I say, you kind of do it just to make sure that all the chicken's being covered. So that's, and then if you have any left over.
You eat it?
Absolutely. I just happen to love
She's
Swiss
not
cheese.
kidding.
No, you know what's funny though?
What?
You're not a Swiss cheese person, but
No,
you've
but I love
never
this.
balked at
No,
this
I love
this
I love
recipe.
this meal.
It's
I'm
not
more-
strong in
I'm
the
more
Swiss
of a
cheese.
cheddar guy,
Yeah,
and we're not really big into American cheese.
there you go. That can go away. Then, after you have your Swiss cheese on top of the chicken, now your mixture of the soup and the milk will go on top of that. Pour all over the whole thing, easy enough. And believe it or not, it does, even though there's nothing except the butter cooking, it starts to smell good. Just the cream of mushroom soup is inspiring. So this will go in the oven for about, I think it was, because I cut it in half. Let me actually double check and see, because I just do it for the amount of time that you and I will, typically, this says for an hour, but that's if you're doing the regular thickness.
That's right, we got it in
So, and the other thing, so this is 350 for an hour. If we bump it up to 425,
You want to
it'll
do
be
that?
20 minutes.
You want to do that?
Yeah, let's do that. Especially since we cut the chicken in half. Okay, and the butter is done. So, I'm gonna just kinda
425?
go ahead and do it to 425, because we definitely want the chicken to be completely cooked. But I loved learning that, and I don't remember in what recipe I practiced it, but it said that if you turn the heat up higher,
Done? Or do you need
I
something
might
else?
have, nope, that's good.
Okay.
Thank you. I'll finish. So as I say, since we're going to use I haven't had this Pepperidge Farm, gosh, it's probably been 6 years, because I think that's how long I've been eating gluten-free. But I just remember how good this was, since as I said, I've been making this recipe for over 20 years. So at this point, you'll just pour, whether it's the panko that you decide to use, the panko flakes, or the Pepperidge Farm stuffing mix, just pour it right over the top of that soup mixture. And you can be generous. Gives it a wonderful crust, and you can imagine what happens then when we pour the butter on. So you can be generous. And believe me, it is just as good with the panko for those who are gluten-free. All right. Yes. Very good. Now just take that melted butter and drizzle it over the top, kind of as evenly as you can, so that the whole recipe gets it.
Pay no attention to the crinkling behind you.
I thought maybe you were snacking back there.
Now our food savers.
Wonderful.
In it goes.
All righty. So that's basically it. That is your recipe. We're going to put it in an oven at 425 for 20 to 22 minutes, and then we're going to do our magic trick of pulling the tin foil, aluminum foil. I never remember which is the right way to say it. Both are correct, I think. We're going to cover it with aluminum foil, then we'll take it off and we'll broil it for the last 2 to 3 minutes just to give it that nice browning on the top. Oh, one other thing that you can do, and I forgot about this part. If you want to give it a little bit of color, if we have any, we can sprinkle paprika over the top, and it gives it a little bit of that.
Have that.
It's nice and crusty and brown, but then it also has a pretty coloring of the red. I kind of feel like we do too, but I didn't prep that. I didn't get that out first. If you're not finding it, it's not a big deal. But anyway, it's a thought for you to
And
consider.
I know it's one of the little guys, but I don't see it handy.
Yeah, exactly. Well, shall we put this in?
I have pumpkin pie spice.
Now that's for a different recipe. We'll put this in the oven after we cover it, and then we'll show you the finished result. All right, so we did exactly what we said we were going to do. We cooked it for 20 minutes, and then we broiled it. And I thought we were going to do it for about 3, but it ended up being pretty much beautifully done in, what, 90 seconds? Yeah, 2 minutes. So there is the big reveal of the beautiful Swiss cheese chicken. And it really is so yummy. So you saw how easy that was to do. If you enjoyed the recipe, give us a little thumbs up.
Subscribe if
Yes,
you haven't
and
already.
Let me know if you've tried this before, anything like it, and how you've done it differently. And if you've tried it with sherry.
Yeah.
We really should do that
Yeah,
one
let's do it
time.
We're always good for a little bit of alcohol.
Have a great night or afternoon. Bon appetit. Thank you for joining us for In the Kitchen with Paul and Judy.
Cheese, Judy.
See you next time.
Bye.
Perfect.
Hey.